Miami! To mission control, we have liftoff. Phinhub! Phinhub! We talking Dolphin City! Phinhub! Yeah! It's that Dolphin Show! Phinhub!
Welcome to the Phinhub Show, the one NFL podcast you can't leave off your roster. Now here's your hosts, Joe and Kevin DeHaven.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Phinhub Show, powered by BetUS. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure to check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 for a 150% bonus on your first deposit for up to $2,000. Your next two deposits will be 125% bonus. So plenty of opportunity to make bank on your buck, if you know what I'm saying. Check out BetUS and use code YouTube150. So a Miami Dolphins report came out today saying that the Dolphins are unlikely to trade for a quarterback while Tua is under the concussion protocol and on injured reserve. After the episode that we have yesterday, this is something important to talk about. We had some people in the chat saying that Tua needs to be traded. Look, whether you're for or against Tua, whether you want him as your quarterback or not, I think there's some important things to look at there. Mm-hmm. If the Dolphins were to try and trade Tua Tagovailoa, the returns would be, it wouldn't be worth it. The Dolphins made a heavy investment on him, making him one of the highest paid players in the NFL. Essentially, all of Tua's value went out the window the second he signed that contract. So even for that amount. Mm-hmm. So even if, and the same is true for a player like Tyreek Hill, the same is true for a player like Jalen Waddle. We're not saying that those players are bad, but when you sign those players to heavy contracts, the value of that player, or not the value of that player, but the value of that contract is diminished because of the amount that you're paying them. Mm-hmm. So what the Dolphins can get back for trading a player like Tua Tagovailoa, it's simply just not worth it. You're not going to get anything of significance back. So I just wanted to address that because I know there was a lot of people in the room yesterday saying that that should be a thing, but it's just not feasible for Miami. And there's going to be no team in the NFL willing to give us a first-round pick, second-round pick for a player like Tua Tagovailoa, not just because of his contract, but also because of the concussion and health concerns that Tua comes along with.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, after signing a contract like that, there's not really much we can get out of trading him or anything like that. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you see it, Tua is the quarterback of the future. He's going to be here for a while until he can't. Maybe if this concussion thing continues to happen to him on a yearly basis, obviously he's going to consider retirement. We're going to actually probably move on from him. But at the end of the day, he's Mike McDaniel's guy. He's the one that knows how to run this offense, and this offense was built for him. So, I mean, it just, like you said, it's not feasible in any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Now, as for the following game, Mike McDaniel had some interesting choice words to address what the quarterback position will look like coming this Monday night on primetime against the Titans. Here's what he had to say.
Or will it be a Boyle Huntley competition this week to determine that?
Well, I think, as Skylar progresses, I think that leaves variables more vague. I think we have a important 48 hours to kind of see where he's at, and then also to get in front of our the rest of the quarterback room and talk with them, talk with coaches, talk with some of the players to get them as most comfortable with the varied uncertainty. And we'll just have to take it a day at a time. There's a lot of stuff on the table, and in moments, that are broader than just the quarterback, but just the overall offense and the team in general. I think you have to open up your mind to a plethora of different solutions, considering your current answers as objectively you could evaluate haven't been the right ones.
So yeah, obviously, it doesn't seem like he's ruling out a Skylar Thompson return, but I do think that is more coach talk than anything.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I think it's some of that too, but I think he's also doing that for the sake of the person, Skylar Thompson. Like you were saying on the episode yesterday, he doesn't want to hurt a career. But I think as far as his career in Miami, in a Miami Dolphins uniform, I think that could be his last game that he's played. And at least it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've heard some people say it, which I think is a fantastic idea. Let's just reach an injury settlement right now and just cut ties with him 100%. And I think part of the problem with this regime with Chris Grier is he can't, and I don't know if it has to do with Mike McDaniel too, but mostly Chris Grier, he can't admit when he makes a mistake.
Right.
And Skylar Thompson is a mistake. It's a mistake to go into the season thinking that he is capable of being a second-string quarterback in the NFL, because I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. You need a capable second-string quarterback to be able to thrive or have a successful season, because you never know what happens. Josh Allen's a beast, right? He's playing through a left hand injury, but I mean, let's say he wasn't able to go. They got to have someone that they're confident that they can win games with. Not like, okay, if Josh Allen goes down, our season's screwed. And that's kind of where we're at, and we saw that against the Seahawks. Skylar Thompson just gave us like 0 ounce of hope in that game. And we don't want that, right? So I think in this game, I feel like Tyler Huntley really needs to be the option, just because we have seen him have success in the NFL. We've never seen Skylar Thompson have success. And for the people that are saying that Bills game,
we still lost
in the playoffs. No, we still lost, but he did not do anything in that game. I promise you. He threw 2 picks. He did not have a good game. Our defense kept us in that game, and our kicker. Mm-hmm. So it's just, he's not it. He's not. And he can't continue to roll out there because the season's already over before it started.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think for this next game, it is going to come down to Tim Boyle or Tyler Huntley. And I have a strong feeling it's going to be Tyler Huntley. Mm-hmm. Here's what Calais Campbell had to say on what Tyler Huntley can possibly provide for the Miami Dolphins going forward.
Yeah, we call him Snoop, but Snoop is a guy who is going to be very prepared. He can make every throw. I think he has a good poise in the pocket, and then he can create with his legs, which I think is something that, with the weapons we have at receiver and the way people have to guard us, when you can really make people pay with your legs, there's going to be some opportunities there, and I think that's a place where we can really exploit going forward, or at least if they have to adjust and account for him and his running ability as well, it should give us some more opportunities to hit some bigger throws.
Calais Campbell seems to be a fan of what Tyler Huntley can do and what the different dynamic that he can offer this offense, especially given the offensive struggles that we have right now. It's going to keep the defense honest, keep them on their heels, and I think that's something important right now for this Miami Dolphins team. We're trying to find our identity because last year, this offensive team was completely different. I mean, the personnel is more or less the same, but it just doesn't feel the same anymore. Defenses have figured out what Mike McDaniel has done. I don't know if this is something that needs to be looked into more. Our boy Jordan, he's on Finside the NFL. He's pounding the table for someone else to take play calling duties over from Mike McDaniel. And even Mike McDaniel has addressed this recently, saying that everything that he does is to win football games. And if that means handing over those duties, that he will willingly do it.
I think that, whatever it is, I think I'm a veteran enough to the National Football League that I expect to field those types of questions randomly when your production isn't near what anyone wants. So I think it's important as the head coach and leader to take accountability for all decisions made, and then as well as what if we had numerous touchdowns that were terribly timed play calls that players just made right. I think you have to I don't just make that assessment. I think it would be incredibly irresponsible if I just went with the results. I think every time that I call plays, I'm de facto doing so in the light that I think it's the best for the team,
I wouldn't be able to. The game is not about me. That's first and foremost. The cost of the television packages to watch the games would be a lot less if people are trying to watch me. So I think that, inherently, I take the responsibility super serious, and every time that I'm calling a game, it's based upon doing the best for the team. And the second, I wouldn't hesitate to change that procedure because it is my call. I would change it in a heartbeat if I thought somebody else gave the team a better chance to win. So ultimately, you have to ultimately you just have to be fully accountable for every decision you make, knowing that the results could be anyway, and I'm fully accepting of that.
He also said in that response that he doesn't think that gives us the best chance of winning. So he does think he is the best person for the job right now as far as calling the plays on game day, right? But yeah, I've heard reasons say Bevel. He thinks Bevel's a really good option. I know Frank Smith's our offensive coordinator, but Bevel does have experience calling plays, even for the Seahawks when they went to 2 Super Bowls. And yeah, at the end of the day, I think it has to do more so with personnel right now out there, and I think that has to do with the line and the quarterback play. And I know people are down about Tua, but he did win us that first game. He did make the proper plays to win that game as well, and I know the defense had a big, part with that. You can argue that if Tua was in this game as well, the defense made enough plays for Tua to do the same thing he did against the Jaguars. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree with that, and it's kind of weird. That Bills game, that game 2 against the Bills, things were looking very ugly. Tua threw 3 interceptions, which was absolutely terrible. I know a lot of fans are going to talk about this and say, like, oh, you're so full of shit. But to be completely honest, I never felt like we were completely out of it. And when Tua went down with a concussion, Tua was driving the ball, picked up the first down, didn't slide, gets the concussion, and now we're looking at Tua being on the IR.
But he got the first down.
But he did get the first down, and we were moving the ball with Tua.
Yeah.
This feels completely different now. I just feel like we are stagnant when we have the ball. We can't really do anything with it. And play calling has been terrible. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle don't look the same without Tua. It's a completely different look of what we're used to seeing with Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa.
This passing offense is all about anticipation, and you see it going over the All-22. I didn't do it myself personally, but Reason did, and I watched this show, fan of the show as well. And you could see so many plays that he was breaking down. It's just anticipation that he needed, even on certain plays that could have been touchdowns, right? Even when you think you have Tyreek Hill covered, Tua puts it in a spot that he just needs to run down to that part, right? You know what I'm saying? And he knows exactly where Tyreek is going to be at that time. Skylar Thompson doesn't have that level of, I guess, functioning in the NFL. Like, he can't. He doesn't know how to read a field. He doesn't know how to read defenders, what they're doing, and it's a shame to see that out there.
Yeah, and for those that are making the argument that Tua and Skylar, Tua's gotten time with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, Skylar has
sense.
No time with.
You've had 3 years.
Look,
here.
It doesn't matter. He's been here for 3 seasons, but also Tua's not some guy that we found in the 7th round. Tua was considered the best prospect in that draft class, even ahead of Joe Burrow
before his hip injury.
Yeah. So Tua was regarded as one of those guys that you tank for Tua. It was a thing. So Tua's not some guy that just they picked up. He's been that guy, and he wasn't that guy when Brian Flores was here. Brian Flores did not want him here. That's been on record. That's a whole other conversation to have. But I think at this point, everybody knows what the situation is with Tua and Brian Flores in those first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And we finally got to see the quarterback that we wanted when he was picked up from Alabama, drafted by the Dolphins. That's the guy that we drafted these last 2 seasons. Well, the 2 seasons prior, either way, whatever. Let's move away from the Tua Tagovailoa discussion. The Dolphins need to figure out something with this offense. The offense is struggling like crazy. I think Tyler Huntley is going to be able to rejuvenate the Miami Dolphins offense a little bit more. Like I said, keep the defense on their heels, keep them guessing with his legs. And recently we had Jalen Waddle and Alec Ingold talk about the offensive struggles, and here's what they had to say.
Frustrating because we know we're better than what we putting out there. But I think it's good for us, you know. I look at the last 2 seasons or since Mike been here, and then going to the first 3 weeks, we had a whole bunch of hype and all this crazy stuff with all this media attention, and we get to see what our team made of early. You know, it's only the 3rd week, and our back is up against the wall, so we're going to see what we made of pretty early, see what the team got.
I think during training camp we had talked, you had asked a similar question about what did you do last year, how are you going to carry that over into this year, and I feel like that response was we have to re-identify who we are this year. And right now, 1 and 2 through week 3, we have to look at this offense as, you know, nothing like what happened last year. You start 3-0, everything's great, everyone's happy, and now it's like we got adversity right out the gate as an offensive team. And, you know, that can be seen a bunch of different ways, and it really just comes down to your perspective of it. Like, we're going to learn a whole lot more throughout the next 15 weeks about the type of guys in the room, the type of character in the room, the type of offense that we want to create throughout a season, the type of progression that we can develop as a group playing together. And from last year to this year, you can make a whole bunch of comparisons on stats, on the ups and downs, on the roller coasters, but you know, how I see it is, you know, off to a slow start, that gut check time right off the bat allows for guys to truly find the whys and the hows of an offense, so that all of these problems coming down the stretch, you've had to solve them before. You've had to communicate before. You've had to deal with problems before, rather than just executing and just doing it because that's just what happened. So I think we're having to answer a lot of the whys and the hows early on. And it's really just how we respond with these opportunities.
So I find that interesting that Alec Ingold points out how that last year, the best offense in the league by far, scoring 70 points on the Denver Broncos. You hear that now, and it just seems impossible.
Yeah.
Like, the Dolphins have scored the least amount of points in the NFL, I believe, up until this point.
I think so, yeah.
So it's crazy.
We're averaging 11 points a game.
Yeah, we scored 70 in one game, week 3 last season. And it doesn't seem like a thing we can ever do again. So the Dolphins need to figure out something, and they need to find their identity again, like Ingold was pointing out. And I don't think that Tyler Huntley is going to be the long-term answer for the Dolphins, but if he can just pick up a few wins in the absence of Tua Tagovailoa, hold down the fort, there is still plenty of game left to be played in the season, and the Dolphins can still make a push for the playoffs. I know it seems crazy, but there's a chance.
It only takes two games out of these next 3, and you're not asking for much. These aren't badass teams that we're playing. This is the Titans, the Patriots, and the Colts. And those are all winnable games. And I know it doesn't seem winnable right now because of our offense, but if we take the approach of one play at a time, just get 3 yards, right? 3.5 yards every play. Run the ball, get a little quick pass. You know what I'm saying? We can't think about these long plays that we were doing all of last year. If we just focus on moving the ball one play at a time, especially with a guy like Tyler Huntley, I do think that these are games that we can win. Yeah. And then as soon as Tua comes back, maybe we hit the ground running and we're back to being one of the better offenses in the NFL.
Yeah, and that would be in the week 8 against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I do think it's possible for us to win 2 out of these next 3 games. So week 8 against the Cardinals, Tua will have his chance to return. So yeah, hopefully the Miami Dolphins can get things back on track and make a shift here with the offense. The defense tends to come alive in the second half, what it seems like every single game. So hopefully, we can have an entire game of the defense really showing out.
That's what we need to see too from the defense. We need right off the bat just play the same type of defense you're playing in the second half of games.
Yeah.
Keep your offense in the game so that McDaniel, I mean, even though he needs to work on this, doesn't flip out and start, getting a little crazy with his play calling. You know what I'm saying? Just maybe play a little bit more conservative while Tua's not out there.
Yeah, and let's get the run game going and stick to it, especially if
Jalen Wright.
When it's working early on, like there's no need to get away from it. But
especially Jalen Wright, man, he played such a good game and he barely got the ball.
Yeah,
like it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah. If you guys haven't already, make sure to check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 for a 150% bonus on your first deposit. Your next 2 deposits will be good for a 125% bonus using code YouTube150. So make sure to check them out and play some money on the next game. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around with us, and we'll catch you in the next one. Fins up.